The ER doors slammed open. A black man stumbled in, thin, clothes stained with dirt and blood, clutching a small child against his chest. The girl was crying, her skin pale, her breath shallow. A nurse moved toward him. He staggered back. "Don't touch us!" His arm was bleeding through a makeshift bandage. His eyes were wild, not with anger, with terror. "I can't stay here!" he screamed. "You don't understand! I can't!" A small medicine bottle slipped from his pocket and hit the floor. One nurse saw it, and everything changed. The afternoon shift at Mercy General's emergency room had been quiet. Too quiet. Emma Reyes knew better than to trust it. She had worked here for 3 years, long enough to recognize the rhythm of chaos. Fridays were unpredictable. The calm before 5 o'clock meant nothing. Trouble always came without warning. Emma stood near the triage desk, reviewing a patient chart she had already memorized. It was a habit, keeping busy, staying invisible. At 26, she was the youngest nurse on the floor, and the staff rarely let her forget it. Her opinions were dismissed before she finished speaking. Her observations ignored. She had learned to watch, to listen, to say nothing unless absolutely necessary. The automatic doors burst open at 4:37. The man who entered looked like he had crawled out of a wreck. His jeans were torn at the knee. His gray hoodie was soaked with sweat and something darker, blood seeping through a wound on his left forearm. He was black, mid-30s, with a lean frame that spoke of missed meals rather than exercise. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken. But it was the child in his arms that made Emma's breath catch. A girl, maybe 4 years old. Her skin had a grayish tint that didn't belong on any child. She was crying, not screaming, not wailing, but a weak, exhausted whimper, the kind of cry that came after hours of pain. "I need help," the man said, his voice cracked. "My daughter, she's sick. Please." 2 nurses moved toward him immediately. Dr. Nathan Cole, the attending physician on duty, looked up from his tablet and frowned. "Sir, let's get you into a bed," one of the nurses said, reaching for his arm. The man jerked away so violently he nearly dropped the child. "Don't touch me!" The nurse froze. Everyone froze. "Sir, I said don't touch me!" He was backing toward the door now, eyes darting between the staff like a cornered animal. "I just need medicine for my daughter. That's all. I'm not staying. I can't stay." Dr. Cole set down his tablet and walked forward slowly, hands raised. He was a tall man, early 50s, with silver hair and the kind of calm authority that usually worked on panicked patients. "Okay," he said evenly. "No one's going to force you to do anything, but you're bleeding pretty badly there, and your daughter doesn't look well. Let us help." "You don't understand." The man's voice broke. "I can't be in the system. If they find out I'm here." "If who finds out?" The man didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the security guard approaching from the left corridor. "No, no, no, no." He turned and tried to run. The security guard moved faster. Within seconds, there was shouting. The man screaming, the child wailing, staff rushing in from every direction. Emma pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding, watching the chaos unfold. "Get him restrained! Someone take the kid! Sir, you need to calm down! Don't take her! Don't take my daughter!" The man was on his knees now, arms wrapped around the child so tightly it looked painful. 2 security guards stood over him, hands hovering, uncertain whether to intervene. The little girl's cries had become hiccups, her small body trembling against her father's chest. Dr. Cole crouched down a few feet away, his expression shifting from calm to clinical. "Sir, I need you to listen to me. Your behavior is putting your daughter at risk. If you don't cooperate, we'll have to assume you're a danger to her safety." The man looked up. His face was wet. Sweat or tears, Emma couldn't tell. I'm not dangerous, he whispered. I'm not. I'm just trying to protect her. From what? Silence. Dr. Cole stood up and turned to the nearest nurse. Call psych and get Child Protective Services on the line. We need to evaluate whether this child is safe in his custody. No! The man lunged forward, but the guards held him back. Please, you can't do this. You don't know what you're doing. She needs me. I'm the only one who... Something fell from his pocket. A small plastic bottle rolling across the linoleum floor. Everyone's attention was on the struggling man. No one noticed the bottle, except Emma. She moved without thinking, bending down to pick it up before anyone could step on it. The label was worn, the text faded, but she could still make out the name. Miglustat. Emma's fingers went cold. She knew this drug. She had studied it during her rotation in pediatric neurology, a unit she had requested specifically because she wanted to understand the patients no one else had time for. Miglustat was one of the rarest medications in the country, used to treat a handful of genetic disorders. The most common was Niemann-Pick disease type C, a death sentence for children. Emma looked at the little girl in the man's arms, the pale skin, the labored breathing, the way her eyes seemed unfocused, distant. It all made sense now. She looked at the man, really looked at him, past the dirt and the blood and the desperation. He wasn't violent. He wasn't unstable. He was terrified. Not of the hospital, not of the doctors, but of something else. Something that would happen if he stayed. The guards were pulling him to his feet now, trying to separate him from his daughter. Please, he kept saying. Please, you don't understand. If you put us in the system, they'll find us. They'll take her. Please. Sir, you need to stop resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm begging you. Emma stepped forward. Wait. No one heard her. The noise was too loud, the chaos too thick. She tried again, louder this time. Wait! Dr. Cole turned, irritation flashing across his face. Nurse Reyes, this isn't the time. The child is sick. Emma held up the medicine bottle. Miglustat. It's a treatment for Niemann-Pick disease type C. That's why she looks like that. That's why he's scared. The room went quiet. Dr. Cole stared at the bottle in her hand, then at the man on the floor. His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Uncertainty, maybe. Or doubt. That doesn't explain his behavior, he said finally. If his daughter is sick, he should want her treated, not run away from... He's not running from treatment. Emma's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. He's running from something else. Someone else. The man on the floor looked up at her. His eyes met hers, and for a moment the chaos around them seemed to fade. She saw exhaustion. She saw grief. She saw a father who had been fighting alone for so long he had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Please, he whispered. Please don't tell them. Emma didn't look away. The security guards glanced at Dr. Cole, waiting for instructions. The other nurses stood frozen, unsure how to proceed. The little girl had stopped crying, her small body limp with exhaustion. Let him go, Emma said quietly. Dr. Cole's jaw tightened. Nurse Reyes, you don't have the authority to... I'm not giving an order. I'm asking. She turned to face him fully, still holding the medicine bottle. Give me 10 minutes with him, just 10 minutes. If I can't figure out what's going on, you can call whoever you want. The silence stretched. Dr. Cole looked at the man, the blood on his arm, the child in his grip, the terror in his eyes. Then he looked at Emma, this young nurse he had barely noticed in 3 years, standing in front of him like she had something to prove. 5 minutes, he said, and the guards stay in the room. Emma nodded. She walked over to the man slowly, carefully, the way you approach a wounded animal. She crouched down until they were eye level. My name is Emma, she said softly. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to take your daughter. But I need you to tell me what's happening. The man stared at her. His breathing was ragged. His wound was still bleeding, drops of red hitting the white floor. "How did you know?" he asked. "About the medicine. I studied it a long time ago." She held up the bottle. "This is expensive, hard to get. You don't have insurance, do you?" He shook his head. "Then how did you get it?" He didn't answer. "Someone helped you?" Emma continued. "A program, maybe. A doctor who owed a favor. Something off the books." She leaned closer. "And now you're hiding. Because if anyone finds out where you are, you lose her." The man's composure shattered. His face crumpled, and for a moment he looked like a child himself, lost, broken, desperate for someone to understand. "My name is Marcus," he said. "Marcus Hill. And this is my daughter, Amara." He looked down at the girl in his arms, brushing a strand of hair from her face with trembling fingers. "She's all I have left. And I can't—" His voice broke. "I can't let them take her. I'd rather die." Emma reached out and placed her hand over his. "Tell me everything," she said, "and I'll do whatever I can to help." For the first time since he walked through those doors, Marcus Hill took a breath, and he began to talk. They moved Marcus to a private examination room at the end of the hall. Emma insisted on it, away from the noise, away from the stairs. The security guards positioned themselves outside the door, close enough to intervene but far enough to give the illusion of privacy. Marcus sat on the edge of the examination table, Amara still pressed against his chest. He refused to let anyone else hold her. His wounded arm hung at his side, blood dripping steadily onto the sterile floor. Emma pulled up a stool and sat across from him. She didn't reach for gloves. She didn't reach for instruments. She just waited. 2 years, Marcus said finally. His voice was hollow, scraped clean of emotion. "We've been running for 2 years. Emma said nothing. She let him find his own pace. "My wife, Lydia, she died 2 years ago. Same disease. Niemann-Pick type C. He looked down at Amara's face, tracing the curve of her cheek with his thumb. "She was 29. We thought she just had balance problems, memory issues. By the time they figured out what it was, she had 6 months left." His jaw tightened. Amara was 2 when Lydia passed. The doctors ran tests, said there was a 50% chance she inherited it. He let out a sound that might have been a laugh. 50%. Like flipping a coin for your daughter's life. "The coin came up wrong," Emma said quietly. Marcus nodded. "Symptoms started showing 8 months later. The clumsiness, the trouble swallowing. I knew before the doctors told me." He shifted Amara in his arms, wincing as the movement pulled at his wound. "Lydia's family, the Hartleys, they're wealthy. Old money, they never approved of me. A construction worker with no degree, no connections, no future. When Lydia got sick, they blamed me. Said I should have noticed sooner. Said I didn't take care of her." His voice hardened. "When she died, they came for Amara. Said I couldn't provide for a sick child. Said she needed specialized care, expensive treatments, things I could never afford." He met Emma's eyes. They filed for custody 3 weeks after the funeral. Emma felt her stomach turn. "They went to court?" "We fought for a year. I spent everything I had on lawyers, sold the car, sold the furniture, emptied my savings. Didn't matter. They had better attorneys, more resources, and they had something else." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, unfolding it with trembling fingers. "A medical evaluation. One of their doctors wrote a report saying I was mentally unstable, that I was in denial about Amara's condition, that I was refusing proper treatment because I couldn't accept she was dying." His hand clenched around the paper. "I wasn't refusing treatment. I just couldn't afford the brand-name drugs, so I found alternatives, generic versions, clinical trials, anything I could get my hands on. But to them, that was neglect." Emma looked at the Miglustat bottle still in her hand. "This medication, how did you get it?" a doctor in Baltimore. She ran a program for families who couldn't pay. Off the books, under the table. She got me the medicine at cost, taught me how to manage Amara's symptoms. Marcus's voice dropped. When the Hartleys found out, they reported her. She lost her license. Because she helped you. Because she helped people like me. He looked down at Amara again. The court ruled in their favor 6 months ago, said I was unfit, ordered me to surrender custody within 30 days. Emma understood now. The running, the fear, the refusal to enter the system. You didn't surrender her. I couldn't. Marcus's voice cracked. She's my daughter, my blood, the only thing I have left of Lydia. You think I'm going to hand her over to people who want to lock her away in some facility and study her like a lab rat? Study her? Marcus's expression darkened. The Hartleys don't care about Amara. They care about the disease. Niemann-Pick is genetic, runs in their family, apparently. Lydia was the first one diagnosed, but there might be others. They want to use Amara for research. Track the progression, document the symptoms, turn her into a case study for their family foundation. He spat the words like poison. They don't see her as a child. They see her as data. Emma sat back, processing everything. A dying child, a desperate father, a wealthy family with lawyers and resources and a court order, and somewhere in the middle, a man who had given up his entire life to keep his daughter safe. Marcus, she said carefully, if there's a court order, the hospital is legally required to report you. The moment you showed up here, you triggered an alert. Child Protective Services, law enforcement, they're probably already on their way. Marcus closed his eyes. I know. Then why did you come? He held up his arm. The wound was deeper than Emma had realized, the edges ragged and inflamed. I was working under the table at a construction site. Piece of rebar went through my arm. I tried to bandage it myself, but it got infected. He looked at Amara. She hasn't been eating. Her breathing's been getting worse. I thought maybe I could just get some antibiotics, some medicine for her, and leave before anyone noticed. That's not how hospitals work. I know that now. A knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Cole entered without waiting for a response, his face tight with controlled frustration. 5 minutes are up, he said, looking directly at Emma. I need to know what we're dealing with. Emma stood. The child has Niemann-Pick disease type C. The father isn't a threat. He's a single parent who's been managing her care on his own for 2 years. Dr. Cole's expression didn't change. And his behavior? The refusal to cooperate? He's scared. There are people looking for him, people who want to take his daughter. What people? Emma hesitated. She looked at Marcus, whose eyes were fixed on the floor. Her maternal grandparents, she said. They have a custody order. He's been hiding from them. Dr. Cole's eyebrows rose. So he's a fugitive? He's a father. He's in violation of a court order, which makes him a legal risk to this hospital. Dr. Cole stepped closer, lowering his voice. I appreciate what you're trying to do, Reyes, but this isn't your call. We have protocols. We have liability. If something happens to that child while she's in our care... A sound cut through the room. Amara's body went rigid in Marcus's arms. Her eyes rolled back, and her small limbs began to shake. Violent, uncontrolled spasms that made her look like a puppet with cut strings. Amara! Marcus screamed. Amara, no! Emma moved before she could think. She grabbed the child from Marcus's arms and laid her flat on the examination table, turning her onto her side. She's seizing! I need suction and oxygen now! Dr. Cole was already shouting orders into the hallway. Within seconds, the room flooded with staff, nurses, a respiratory therapist, another physician Emma didn't recognize. Airways compromised, someone called out. She's not breathing. Bag her! Emma held Amara's head steady, keeping her airway aligned while another nurse fitted an oxygen mask over her face. The girl's lips were turning blue. Her body continued to convulse. "Come on," Emma whispered. "Come on, sweetheart. Stay with us." 30 seconds passed. 40. The seizure began to slow. Amara's body went limp. Her chest rose once, twice, and then steadied into shallow but consistent breaths. "She's back," the respiratory therapist said. "Vitals stabilizing." Emma didn't move. Her hands were still on Amara's head, still holding her steady. She could feel the child's pulse beneath her fingertips, fast, fragile, but present. Marcus had collapsed against the wall, his face gray with terror. She's stable," Emma said. "For now." Dr. Cole was watching Emma with a different expression now, not irritation, something closer to recognition. "How did you know to turn her on her side?" Niemann-Pick patients have swallowing dysfunction. If she aspirated during the seizure, she could have choked. Emma finally released Amara's head and stepped back. "I've read the case studies." Dr. Cole looked at Marcus, then at the child, then at Emma. "We need to admit her," he said. "Full neurological workup. She's not leaving this hospital tonight." Marcus pushed off the wall. "No, we're not staying." "You don't have a choice." Dr. Cole's voice was firm, but not unkind. "Your daughter just had a seizure and stopped breathing. If you try to take her out of here, I'll have security restrain you and child services will take custody within the hour." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "Please," he whispered. "Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything except trying to save your daughter's life." Dr. Cole turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Reyes, you're on this case. Keep me updated." He walked out. Emma looked at Marcus. The fight had drained out of him. He was staring at Amara's small body on the table, his hands hanging useless at his sides. "I can't lose her," he said. "I can't." Emma didn't have words that would help. She didn't have promises she could keep. So she did the only thing she could. She pulled on a pair of gloves and reached for his arm. "Let me treat your wound," she said. "Then we figure out what comes next." Marcus didn't resist. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of activity. Emma cleaned and sutured Marcus's wound, a deep laceration that had indeed become infected. She administered antibiotics and dressed the arm properly for the first time in days. Marcus barely flinched through the entire process, his eyes never leaving Amara's bed. The child had been moved to a private room in the pediatric wing. Monitors beeped steadily around her, tracking her heart rate, her oxygen levels, her brain activity. She looked smaller than ever beneath the white hospital sheets. Emma had just finished checking Amara's IV when a knock came at the door. A woman in a gray suit entered, someone from hospital administration, judging by the badge around her neck. "I need to speak with the nursing staff about this patient," the woman said, her tone clipped and professional. "There's been a flag in the system." Emma stepped forward. "I'm the primary nurse on this case." The woman consulted her tablet. "The child's file is locked. There's a notification. Automatic alert to family services and law enforcement when this patient enters any medical facility." "I'm aware." "Then you're also aware that we need to follow protocol." The woman looked past Emma toward Marcus, who sat motionless in the corner. "Hospital policy requires us to separate the child from any adult who may pose a risk to her safety." Marcus's head snapped up. "I'm not a risk. I'm her father." "Sir, I understand this is difficult. You don't understand anything." His voice was rising. "You're talking about taking my daughter away because some paper says I'm not good enough. You want to hand her over to people who don't love her, who never loved her." "Marcus!" Emma put a hand on his shoulder. "Stop!" He was shaking. His whole body was shaking. The administrator's expression remained neutral. "We'll need him to step out of the room until we can verify." "Give me 1 hour," Emma said. The administrator frowned. "Excuse me?" 1 hour. The child is medically unstable. Any disruption to her environment could trigger another crisis. Let me stabilize her condition and document everything properly. Then we can discuss next steps." The woman looked skeptical but seemed to weigh the liability. "1 hour," she said finally, "but security stays at the door. And if anything changes, I'm pulling him out immediately." She left. Marcus slumped back in his chair. 1 hour! What can you possibly do in 1 hour? Emma didn't answer. She was already moving to the computer terminal in the corner, pulling up Amara's medical file, or trying to. Access denied. The screen flashed red, restricted file, court order attached. Emma's fingers flew across the keyboard, navigating through hospital databases, cross-referencing patient records. She wasn't supposed to have access to sealed files, but she knew the system better than most. 3 years of overnight shifts had taught her every back door, every shortcut. What she found made her stomach drop. The court order wasn't just about custody. It included a provision allowing the Hartley family to access all medical records, treatment plans, and care decisions for Amara Hill. Every time Marcus had taken his daughter to a clinic, a pharmacy, even a free health fair, someone had logged it, someone had tracked them. They had been running, but they had never been hidden. "Marcus," Emma said quietly, "how long have you been off the grid?" "Since the court ruling, 6 months." "You've been moving around. Different cities?" "Every few weeks. I take whatever work I can find, day labor, cash jobs. We stay in motels, shelters when I can't afford rent." Emma scrolled through the records. There were entries from Baltimore, Richmond, Charlotte, Atlanta. Every stop, every clinic visit, logged and time-stamped. "They've been following you this whole time," she said. "Every time you sought help for Amara, someone reported it." Marcus's face went white. "That's not possible. I was careful. I used different names." "They didn't need your name. They tracked Amara's. Her disease is rare enough that any prescription, any treatment, any medical record would flag in the system." Emma turned to face him. "Marcus, they know you're here. They probably knew the moment you walked through those doors." The monitor beside Amara's bed began to beep faster. Emma spun around. The girl's oxygen levels were dropping. 92%, 90, 88. "She's desaturating," Emma said, already reaching for the oxygen mask. "Get Dr. Cole, now!" Marcus ran to the door, shouting for help. Within minutes, the room was full again. Dr. Cole and another physician Emma recognized, Dr. Patricia Owens, a senior attending with 20 years of experience, were assessing Amara's condition. "Respiratory distress," Dr. Owens said. "We need to intubate." "Prep for standard RSI," Dr. Cole ordered, "propofol and succinylcholine." Emma's blood ran cold. "Wait," she said. "You can't use those drugs." Dr. Cole looked at her impatiently. "Nurse Reyes, we don't have time. Niemann-Pick type C patients have compromised hepatic function. Propofol metabolism is unpredictable. You could cause acute liver failure." Emma's voice was steady despite her racing heart. "And succinylcholine can trigger hyperkalemic episodes in patients with neurodegeneration. You'll stop her heart." The room went silent. Dr. Cole stared at her. Dr. Owens turned from the patient, her expression unreadable. "Where did you learn that?" Dr. Owens asked. "A case study from Johns Hopkins, published 2 years ago." Emma met her gaze. "A child with the same condition died on the table because no one checked the drug interactions. I read that paper 3 times. Dr. Owens looked at Dr. Cole. Something passed between them. A silent conversation Emma couldn't interpret. "What do you suggest?" Dr. Owens asked. "Ketamine and rocuronium. Safer metabolic profile, minimal hepatic stress." Emma stepped closer to the bed. "I can assist with airway management. I've done it before." Another moment of silence. Then Dr. Owens nodded. "Do it." The next 10 minutes were the longest of Emma's life. She positioned Amara's head, cleared her airway, handed instruments to the physicians with precision that surprised even herself. When the tube finally slid into place, and the ventilator began its steady rhythm, she felt her knees go weak. Amara was breathing. Her oxygen levels climbed, 93, 95, 98, stable. Dr. Cole stepped back from the bed, pulling off his gloves. He looked at Emma for a long moment. "You just saved her life," he said. "If we had used the standard protocol—" "She would have died," Emma finished. "I know." Marcus was standing in the corner, tears streaming down his face. He had watched the entire thing in helpless silence. Dr. Owens moved toward the computer terminal, pulling up Amara's file. Her fingers tapped rapidly across the keyboard, and her expression shifted from focused to troubled. "There's a lock on this file," she said. "Court ordered, and a flag, automatic notification upon any hospital admission." "I know," Emma said. "The Hartley family, her maternal grandparents." Dr. Owens looked at Marcus. "You've been running from them." It wasn't a question. Marcus wiped his face with the back of his hand. "They want to take her from me, use her for research. I couldn't let that happen." "The court gave them custody," Dr. Owens said carefully, "which means, legally, you're in violation of—" "I know what I'm in violation of." Marcus's voice was raw. "I know what the law says. But the law doesn't love her. The law doesn't hold her when she cries at night. The law doesn't know that her favorite color is yellow, or that she's afraid of thunderstorms, or that she still asks for her mother every single day." His voice broke. "I'm all she has. And if you take her away from me, she'll die. Not from the disease, from losing the only person in this world who sees her as more than a diagnosis." Dr. Owens said nothing, but Emma saw something shift in her eyes, a crack in the professional armor. The door opened. The hospital administrator returned, flanked by 2 police officers. "Time's up," she said. "We need to resolve this situation immediately. The family has been notified." Marcus looked at Emma. In his eyes, she saw everything: the fear, the exhaustion, the desperate, impossible hope that someone, anyone, would choose to see him. Emma looked back at him, and she made her choice. Emma stepped forward, placing herself between Marcus and the officers. "The child is in critical condition," she said. "She's currently intubated and on a ventilator. Any emotional disturbance, removing her father, introducing strangers, could trigger another respiratory crisis." The administrator's eyes narrowed. "Nurse Reyes, this is not a medical decision. This is a legal matter." "It becomes a medical decision when the patient's life is at risk." Emma didn't raise her voice, but she didn't back down either. "If you remove him now and she destabilizes, I'll document that the administration overrode clinical judgment. Every complication, every setback, it goes in the record." The room fell silent. One of the officers shifted uncomfortably. He was young, maybe mid-20s, and he kept glancing at the small figure on the hospital bed. The tubes, the monitors, the pale face barely visible above the sheets. "Ma'am," he said quietly to the administrator, "maybe we should wait for the family to arrive before we make any moves, just to be safe." The administrator's jaw tightened, but she nodded curtly. "Fine. He stays in the room until the family arrives, but he doesn't leave, and he doesn't touch any equipment." She pointed at the officers. "You 2 stay at the door." She swept out of the room. Marcus let out a breath he had been holding for what seemed like hours. He looked at Emma, his eyes red and swollen. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Emma didn't answer immediately. She walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot below. Cars coming and going, people walking in and out of the hospital, each one carrying their own burdens, their own invisible battles. "When I was 12, she said, "my father got sick, cancer. We didn't have insurance, didn't have money, didn't have anyone who cared enough to help." She turned back to face Marcus. "I watched him die in a county hospital because no one thought he was worth saving. Just another poor man taking up a bed." Marcus said nothing. "I became a nurse because I swore I would never let that happen to someone else. Not if I could help it." Emma's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed something deeper, an old wound that had never fully healed. You're not a case number to me. You're not a liability. You're a father who loves his daughter. That's all I need to know. The door opened again. Dr. Cole stepped inside, his expression unreadable. "Reyes," he said. A word. Emma followed him into the hallway, leaving Marcus alone with his daughter and the watchful eyes of the officers. Dr. Cole led her to a quiet corner near the nurse's station. He crossed his arms and studied her for a long moment. "You're putting yourself at risk," he said finally. "You know that." "I know. If the family files a complaint, if the hospital decides you interfered with a legal process, you could lose your license. Everything you've worked for." Emma met his gaze. "Then I lose it." Dr. Cole's expression flickered. Surprise, maybe. Or something like respect. "Why?" he asked. "What makes this case different from any other?" Emma thought about the question. She thought about Marcus, about Amara, about the bottle of miglostat that had started everything. She thought about her father, dying in a hospital bed while strangers walked past without a second glance. "Because everyone else has already decided who he is," she said. "They see a black man with no money, no papers, running from the law. They don't ask why. They don't care." She stepped closer to Dr. Cole, her voice dropping. "But I looked at him. I actually looked. And you know what I saw?" Dr. Cole didn't answer. "I saw a man who gave up everything, his job, his home, his identity, to keep his daughter alive. A man who works 3 jobs just to afford medicine that costs more than he makes in a month. A man who hasn't slept through the night in 2 years because he's terrified of losing the only person he has left." Her voice hardened. "That child needs her father. Not a courtroom, not a foster system, not a family that sees her as a research subject. Her father. And if we hand her over to people who have never loved her, who only want to use her, then we're not protecting anyone. We're just following orders." Dr. Cole was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than Emma had ever heard it. "I judged him," he said, "the moment he walked through those doors. I saw the blood, the panic, the way he was fighting everyone, and I assumed the worst." He looked down at his hands. "I've been doing this job for 23 years. I thought I knew how to read people." Emma waited. "I was wrong." Dr. Cole raised his head. "He's not dangerous. He's desperate. There's a difference, and I should have seen it." He took a deep breath. "I can't make any promises. The family has legal authority. There's nothing I can do about that. But I can buy him some time." He pulled out his phone and began typing. "I'm putting in a medical hold. The patient requires extended observation due to her unstable condition. That gives us at least 48 hours before anyone can legally transfer her." Emma felt something loosen in her chest. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Dr. Cole pocketed his phone. 48 hours isn't much. If he doesn't find help by then..." "I know." Emma was already thinking ahead. "There's a legal aid organization downtown. They handle custody cases for low-income families. I'll make some calls." Dr. Cole nodded slowly. For the first time since Emma had met him, he looked at her not as a subordinate, but as an equal. "You did good today, Reyes," he said. "I don't know if it'll be enough, but you did good." He walked away, leaving Emma alone in the hallway. She pulled out her phone and began to search. It was past midnight when Emma finally returned to Amara's room. The officers had gone. Dr. Cole had spoken with administration, explaining that the medical hold changed the situation and that Marcus posed no flight risk while his daughter remained on life support. No replacements had been sent. Amara had been taken off the ventilator 2 hours earlier. Her breathing had finally stabilized enough on its own, though she remained connected to oxygen and monitors. The hospital was quiet now, the fluorescent lights dimmed to a soft glow. Somewhere down the hall, a machine beeped in steady rhythm. Marcus was exactly where she had left him, sitting in the chair beside his daughter's bed, her small hand clasped in both of his. He hadn't slept. Emma could see it in the way he held himself, the tremor in his shoulders, the dark circles beneath his eyes. But there was something else now, something that hadn't been there before. Hope. "I made some calls," Emma said softly, stepping into the room. "There's an organization called the Family Justice Center. They provide free legal representation for parents in custody disputes. I spoke to someone on their emergency line. They're willing to take your case." She held out a business card. Marcus stared at it like it was written in a foreign language. "They can't guarantee anything," Emma continued. "The court order is still valid, but they think there might be grounds for appeal, especially given the circumstances. The fact that you've been managing Amara's care successfully, that you've kept her stable without institutional support, it matters." Marcus took the card. His fingers trembled. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. His voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't even know why you already thanked me." Emma sat down across from him. "Back in the ER, when you trusted me with the truth, that was enough." Marcus shook his head slowly. "You're the first person in 2 years who looked at me and didn't see a criminal, didn't see a bad father, didn't see someone who deserved to lose his child." He looked up at her, and in his eyes she saw something she recognized. The same exhaustion, the same grief, the same stubborn refusal to give up that she had carried since she was 12 years old. "You saw me," he said. "Just me." Emma didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. They sat together in silence, listening to the steady beep of Amara's heart monitor, the soft hum of the oxygen machine, the distant sounds of a hospital that never truly slept. At some point, Amara stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, confused, and she looked around the room until she found her father's face. "Daddy?" Marcus leaned forward, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here. I'm tired." "I know, sweetheart. Go back to sleep. I'll be right here when you wake up." Amara's eyes closed. Within seconds, she was asleep again, her breathing slow and even. Marcus pressed his forehead against his daughter's hand and wept. Emma left the hospital as the first light of dawn began to break over the city. She was exhausted. Her shift had ended hours ago, but she had stayed, filling out paperwork, making calls, doing everything she could to give Marcus Hill a fighting chance. She didn't know if it would be enough. She didn't know if anything would be enough. But when she thought about the way Marcus had looked at his daughter, the way he had held her hand, whispered her name, promised to be there when she woke up, she knew she had made the right choice. The city was waking up around her. Cars filled the streets. People hurried past on their way to work, to school, to lives that would never intersect with hers. Millions of stories unfolding, millions of struggles no one would ever see, millions of people fighting silent battles for the things they loved. Emma walked among them, anonymous and unremarkable, just another figure in the crowd. But she carried something with her now, a small, fragile certainty that had taken root in her chest. Justice didn't always come from courtrooms. It didn't always wear a suit or carry a gavel. Sometimes it was nothing more than a single person willing to stop and ask a different question. Not, "What does he look like?" but, "Who is he, really?" Emma didn't know what would happen to Marcus and Amara. She didn't know if the lawyers would help, if the courts would listen, if a father's love would be enough to overcome the weight of money and power and indifference. But she knew one thing. For the first time in 2 years, Marcus Hill was not running alone, and sometimes that was where hope began.